Welcome back to This Week in Bevy. This Week in Bevy is back with the Bevy 0.18 release candidate, and while a few videos haven't made it to YouTube, all of the issues are still on the site. And that's starting off with Bevy 0.18 RC.1. Note that there is an issue with the docs building right now, which will hopefully be resolved soon, but the RC is out and available on crates.io if you want to go install and use it. A quick reminder that the release candidate cycle is the best time to try out Bevy on your projects for your use cases and get any fixes in that you would need if something changed in a way that affects your project. 0.18 RC1 came within 3 months of the last release, so the release chain is back on schedule, and as usual, anything that is ready on main has been included. The release candidate just happened, so the migration guide has not been collected onto a single page yet. If you'd prefer to wait for that, you can expect it fairly soon. Meanwhile, the Bevy metrics dashboard is now publicly available at metrics.bevy.org. This shows stats about Bevy's compilation like build time and binary size, stats about Bevy's stress test with frame duration and CPU and GPU usage, historical trends, and more. This effort is funded by the Bevy Foundation, and more funding means more stuff like this. And with that, let's get into some of the PRs that were merged this week before the RC. For example, 13.797 implements 2 requirements for mirrors and portals. Perspective projection near plane is for customizing the near plane clipping of a camera, and camera invert culling inverts the front face setting for that camera. The front face is the clockwise or counterclockwise rotation of the vertices in a mesh, which defines whether you're looking at the front or the back of that mesh. Together, these 2 new features power the new mirror example, which you can see here, which shows a complete working mirror putting all the pieces together. And in 22.039, this increases the number of textures associated with each clustered decal from 1 to 4, which are intended to be used as the normal, metallic roughness, and emissive maps, but can also be taken advantage of by custom materials to be used in different ways. A new example called clustered decal maps was added, showcasing the new support. And further support for more decals in a scene was added by 22.028, which increases the limit to 1024 decals if certain features in WGPU are available. 22.085 made it so that primitive gizmos draw their first joint, which closes the shape kind of nicely. You can see in the before here, there's a little bit of a gap on that first joint, and after, they are all closed. And if you've ever dealt with MIP maps or anisotropic filtering, you might recognize 22.042, which is now easier to set filters and address modes when loading an image. This is convenient for repeating textures that can be sampled outside of their UV 0 to 1 bounds, and for taking advantage of anisotropy, which requires linear filters. The 2 new APIs are set address mode and set filter on the sampler that you can access in that image loader. And a couple of quick hits: if you're into animation, the morph target limit was increased from 64 per model to 256 in 21.421. Bevy 0.18 will include WGPU version 27 as of 21.746. Note that WGPU 28 actually did just come out, but it came out after the release candidate started, so is unlikely to make it into Bevy 0.18. 21.989 introduces mesh tag usage into the array texture example for handling layer selection. Mesh tag is one of the ways that you can pass in arbitrary extra data by using the mesh tag index to, say, index into a storage buffer. In 21.622, there were also some fixes for propagate stop and propagate over, bringing them more in line with the documentation and what people expect from those components. And in 21.798, triggering events via Bevy Remote was implemented and merged. And first up for the showcases this week, we've got City Generator. This City Generator was part of a student paper submitted a few months ago and is now open source. The meshes generated by this tool are free for you to use in any of your projects. This demo uses a virtual machine to customize a material. The video shows a small script which is being loaded as an asset and then used to control the render color of a mesh. The script changes the output based on the distance between the object and its neighbor. Next up, we have a 3D light distribution viewer. This visualizes real photometric data from EULUM-DAT or IES files, which are files that I am not familiar with. I'm told this is the same data lighting manufacturers provide, so this shows actual light color and basic CRI, and is also available on the web if you have these files. And INSANIO is an auto battler where you send misfits into vehicular combat. Your job is to prepare them, deploy them, and watch them struggle, and finally watch them fail or win in massive explosions. This is a work in progress game about a sentient AI trying to survive and hide its presence from humans. The UI for this one looks pretty good and fits with the visuals of the game. Next up, we've got an old Kinect sensor hooked up to a Bevy game. I love seeing old Kinect demos. Next up, we've got a viewport and headless game rendering working for a Dioxus/Bevy editor in a desktop app. And continuing the trend with editors, this is Bevy Map Editor, which is an in-progress 2D map editor intended to be open sourced in the future. And if you've ever wanted to just draw on your screen, this is a screen annotation application that is Wayland only, but has a direct integration with Wayland. It's not yet open source, but there are 3 tools: a pen, a marker, and an eraser. The tool configuration, such as size and color wheel, can be toggled and is initially invisible. The application starts when the user presses Mod A, so it's always available. In the description, they said they use this when playing Baldur's Gate or streaming it. And this is FoilRs, a Bevy feathers and gizmos, which are used for plotting, in this X-Foil inspired project. And then we've got Multitouch camera control, which is Multitouch camera control support in the Foresight SDK. And then we've got a demo of some semi-procedural PNG-based level generation. The idea is to draw simple sketches as 192 by 192 resolution. The tiles are based on specific colors of pixels in the sketch, and each chunk can have transitions to other chunks in the cardinal directions. Here's the drawing in-game. Random chunks get combined when you first start the game, generating a different world each time, and each chunk also has a 50% chance to be horizontally flipped for more variety, and can get assigned a random biome. In this demo, the biome is Tundra. And Dodgeball is a minimalist arcade bullet hell game with full gamepad support that you can go download from itch.io. And Signs of Danger is a falling sand physics roguelite that has been in development for the past 2 years. The project uses Bevy crates like color, math, reflect, and more, but the game's windowing and graphics abstraction is macroquad, not Bevy, because the project started as a macroquad project and just kept finding Bevy crates that were solutions to their problems. And finally, for the showcases, we've got Fish Inverse Kinematics. This is a Fish Inverse Kinematics implementation inspired by a video over on YouTube, which I've got a link to on the website. And first up for the crates this week, we've got Gizmo. Use Bevy gizmos in any context. No need for systems or system parameter juggling. Just use Gizmo. Next up, another new crate, Bevy Event Chain. This is easy trait-like behavior using observers and relations. Relationship targets initiate a chain of events that go one by one through their relationships before returning to the target, which can be useful for acting as one mutable event, like equipment progressively modifying stats of attacks when they happen. And then there's Bevy mod ImGUI 0.8, which, as might be implied by the title, is a Dear ImGUI integration for Bevy. New in 0.8, added support for docking windows, now supports Bevy 0.17, and fixed some graphical glitches. And Bevy Old TV Shader is an old TV style post-processing effect, which was now updated for Bevy 0.16 and 17. While Bevy Simple Screen Boxing v0.2.1 is a crate that implements camera boxing or aspect ratio masking to make letterboxing and pillar boxing pretty easy. Bevy Notify, on the other hand, is a reactivity-ish crate. It uses relationships to define monitors, which then watch for changes, removals, additions of specified components on entities. The demo here is a health bar. And that is it for this week. We've got the 0.18 RC, the metrics dashboard, a bunch of nice showcases and Steam pages, as well as a list of all of the pull requests that were merged this week over on the website. Look forward to seeing more release candidates and more This Week in Bevy covering them over the next couple weeks. Have a great rest of your day.